John Lewis's March books 1, 2, and 3 serve as a sort of timeline. In the first book, we get John Lewis's upbringing, and by the third, we are deep into the ins and outs of his struggles in the civil rights movement. But one thing that is continuously revisited is Barack Obama's presidential inauguration. I believe this was intentional, and it speaks to the way that he frames the civil rights movement and the struggles for liberation. It's hard to say if he views it as complete, but he definitely views it as a win and a success. The entire book is set as his struggles, in contrast to President Obama's inauguration. In an interview after Obama's election, he stated, "When we were organizing voter registration drives, going on the freedom rides, sitting in, coming here to Washington for the first time, getting arrested, going to jail, being beaten, I never dreamed of the possibility that an African American will one day be elected President of the United States." As organizers now, we don't herald Barack Obama's presidency as a civil rights win because we see the struggle for liberation still unfolding. But considering everything that he went through and all of the very personal pain he endured, I can understand why this was incredibly monumental. Lewis does not frame the movement as something that is complete. The books don't end with some beautiful ending where injustice is all gone. He frames every win that he has as progress. In Book 3, he states, "They say to us that we must be concerned not merely about who murdered them, but about the system, the way of life, the philosophy which produced the murderers." There's no part of the book where he speaks about toppling the system that produced the murderers and that allows oppression to continue. Despite this, I do believe he sees the fight for voting as complete. Seeing as voting rights was a large issue that he was fighting for, I believe passing voting rights legislation and seeing so many black people be able to vote as a black man and vote a black man into office was framed as a complete win. I believe this narrative of individual civil rights wins, being seen as progress and never complete, is so incredibly important when it comes to the contemporary struggle for civil rights. When you are continually on the front lines working for something and putting yourself at risk daily when you finally accomplish something, even if it's only a part of your original goal, it feels like a huge win. John Lewis spoke to this when he described just how tired members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee were. You get to a point where any progress feels like you've accomplished what you're working towards. This is why I feel this narrative definitely applies to our contemporary struggles for liberation. Most of the points hit in the book, especially about them continually having to go back to the drawing board and readjust their plans to make progress, apply to today's liberation struggle, because our demands at their core are still very similar. All in all, I feel John Lewis framed the civil rights movement as something that is ongoing and not complete, but also as a movement that made so much progress. Definitely as a success, just not as the last success in the struggle towards liberation.